James Dean, the legendary eternal teenage rebel without a cause, young actor that passed away at the age of 24 in a car accident. He had made only 3 movies, only one of which had been released by the time of his death, so he didn't really live to see much of his fame. And an interesting thing about James Dean, just to get right into it, is he kind of died in a cosmetic state of old age. He had had his hairline shaved back to play the character Jet Rink in his third and final film, Giant, as an older gentleman. And a week after filming was finished, he was dead. So he had actually died with a receded hairline, which is kind of interesting. And that's the whole deal with James Dean, one of the most interesting and phenomenal, iconic characters in entertainment history, and certainly one of the top 3. Elvis, Marilyn Monroe, and James Dean. Probably and possibly the top 3 hugest iconic characters ever. And as a result, billions, literally billions, of collectible items on James Dean. And that's what I'm here to talk about. This is Collector's World. My name is Dr. J. Do me a favor if you're watching this and click that subscribe button right above me there, and check out all the episodes of Collector's World and all the other videos I have up on my YouTube channel. You're guaranteed to like something. And today we're going to talk about James Dean, and there are, as I said, untold billions of items on James Dean, and I'm going to talk about some of my favorites, some of the key collectibles you need for your collection, and some really neat items too, I might add. I don't even know where to start because there is so many, so probably start with what I'm wearing. Every fan of James Dean has to have the replica red nylon jacket from his most famous movie, Rebel Without a Cause, and of course there were James Dean posters and pictures of all sorts, and literally no end to how many pictures you could get on James Dean. There were James Dean dolls, action figures, whatever you want to call them, and some of them were very, very neat, I might add. Very cool collectibles. Let's take another look at this, because the back opens, and you got a little history of James Dean. So, action figure, doll, whatever you want to call it. There, he's wearing the red nylon jacket. And James Dean, literally, every item you could possibly think of. James Dean's license plates. Again, more James Dean pictures. Check this out, a James Dean towel. James Dean bath towel. And of course, there were tons, and I mean tons of books, DVDs, videos, you name it. He had more documentaries made about him than anyone I can think of. And let's talk about a couple of them. There were James Dean video packs, video box sets, you know, where you could get all kinds of interesting interview footage and clips, archives of James Dean, the man and his life. Of course, some of his early television appearances. You know, James Dean only made 3 films, but funny enough, he did a lot of live television work in the early 50s. And most of it is available now, and so there actually is a lot of footage out there on James Dean. It's kind of interesting. My favorite documentary of all is James Dean Forever Young, hosted by Martin Sheen, and it's basically a documentary entirely on James Dean. There's no interviews with friends and family of his. It's just clips from his acting. And as I said, hosted by Martin Sheen, but most likely, you know, in my opinion, the best documentary ever. I mean, I have watched it over and over, and there was a lot of interesting stuff put out in 2005, which was the 50th anniversary of James Dean's passing. So a lot of good books and DVDs have recently come out, but Forever Young is probably my pick. The A&E biography, of course, was it was a 2-hour, I believe, episode. Another fantastic documentary. And again, there it is, 50th anniversary edition. So like I said, there was a lot of good stuff. And every conceivable documentary you could imagine on James Dean, which most of them, of course, were a tribute to James Dean. Great box sets. Great archival footage. Now, we got to talk about probably the most important DVD box set that came out, and that was the actual 3 films. James Dean, what you would call the complete James Dean collection, and it pretty much is. And it's got all 3 films, East of Eden, Rebel Without a Cause, and Giant, and they all come with amazing features. They're 2-disc versions, 2-disc special editions. They've got costume fittings, right? Archival interviews, documentaries, the actual films, commentary. It's unbelievable. Like, it is a fantastic gift box set and one heck of a DVD package. Books. Every sort of book you could imagine. Every biography on James Dean. The life and legend of James Dean. Interesting biographies from the 70s, 80s, and some even from the 60s and 50s. And probably my favorite of the biography books would be James Dean, the Mutant King, right here. And it's a book by David Dalton. Has great archival footage. You know, great photographs. You name it, it's all in here. James Dean, the biography by one of his good friends, William Bast. And there it is. This is a biography that was made. William Bast wrote it in 1956. It was a heck of a book. And he actually followed it up many years later with another book that we'll get to in a second here. James Dean Shooting Stars. Now, a lot of these books, of course, are photographic compilations. And they're pretty cool. This is Tribute to a Rebel. This is an oversized book. And a lot of them have great photographs. There were James Dean poster books, of course, which you're looking at right there. My favorite book right here is by Sanford Roth. Can I get a shot of his name there? Sanford Roth. He was the photographer that was with James Dean the day he died. He took the pictures, interestingly enough, he took pictures of James Dean's body in the wreckage of his Porsche. Photos he said he would never release. And I wonder about those photos. Did he destroy them? Are they out there somewhere? You know, it's a very interesting, not to be morbid or anything, but interesting that there was a photographer there capturing even James Dean's final moments. And Dean had enough sense to have a photographer with him, as if he knew he was on borrowed time, you know, to be able to take a lot of photographs of himself. And that paid off because, you know, there's a huge amount of pictures and portfolios, photographs on James Dean. But this book by Sanford Roth is an amazing photographic compilation of James Dean's, basically his final few weeks, the final, I believe, month that Sanford Roth spent with him. This is another book that was put out around the 50th anniversary, 2005, and this is actually one of the rare authorized books on James Dean, and another great, great text, great photographs. This was the first book I ever got in the 1980s. And another great photographic compilation. Lots of, in fact, this is probably, if I had to pick one, next to the Sanford Roth book, my favorite book, because it's got the most amazing photographs. This was a book put out recently, a few years ago, and it's basically the making of Rebel Without a Cause. And one thing I didn't know is that James Dean did see a final cut of Rebel Without a Cause before he passed away. I always thought he died without seeing a cut of the film, but no, he did see it. Again, more James Dean books of every sort, biographies, you name it. This is another great photographic book that came out around the 50th anniversary. Every book you could possibly imagine. There were trading cards on James Dean, trading card sets. And now I'm going to bring you and show you one of my favorite collectibles on James Dean and one of the most rarest pieces that I have. And that's actually a replica of James Dean's glasses. Now take a look at these babies right here. These were a replica of the glasses that he wore. I don't know if you can see this, but there is even his engraved signature on the side of them. See if we can zoom in on that. So his signature engraved on the side of it, and it has the sunglass clip-ons that went over his glasses. And this is an amazing, rare James Dean collectible, and probably my favorite of the items that I own. There were James Dean t-shirts, of course, t-shirts of every sort. You name it, they had it. James Dean, eternal, Rebel Without a Cause, the guy that gave teenagers their voice. He will live forever young. James Dean, Rebel Without a Cause, immortalized, one of the most iconic and beloved figures in entertainment history. Check him out.